Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
Steve, what's up?
Well, you look older in this episode.
I feel older in this episode. Thank you.
Really old.
Oh, thanks, Sam.
Coming from 25-year-old Sam. And sitting next to you is...
my lovely daughter, Ella.
Hi.
That's you.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks.
At the ripe age of...
I'm 22.
Let's go. I'm not the youngest.
So 20... Sam's just like, I'm not the youngest hanging out with these old guys. So, some youngins in recovery.
Yeah.
Yes, we are in recovery.
Yes.
So, today's episode is sponsored by Bass Pro Shop.
I even wore my hat.
Do you actually fish? That's what I want to know.
This is the first year I've ever bought a fishing license. Jeremy did a little fathering.
Love that guy.
And,
Love
he
that
took
guy.
me
Shout out,
and
Jeremy.
Kurt Frankham. We went out and we went to Strawberry and went fishing. He taught me, showed me the ropes. So I've been a couple times on my own.
So like Will Smith says about cigars and getting jiggy with it, it's for the look, I don't light it.
Great.
Yes.
You were old enough when that came out. What were you, in college?
Yeah, probably.
That's so funny.
Shout out, Will Smith.
No, I wasn't in college, man. I was probably in high school.
Probably, because I was like in elementary school when that came out. So, all right. Spirituality and recovery. Turns out that's a thing.
What is
Absolutely.
spirituality? I think we probably ought to define that one first.
Take a stab, Ella.
Why don't you take a stab, Sam?
Are you going to hand it off to me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming if we're talking about spirituality, then we're maybe making a distinction between what is spiritual and what is religious. Spirituality can mean a lot of things that don't necessarily have to be religious in nature. That's where I'd start with it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for hitting that off, because now I know what I just felt like
Steve
you know what
does
I mean?
that.
Like
Steve
deer in the
does that.
headlights. I was like, what?
I'm just a guy in recovery, Sam.
Just hanging out with his young
Not as
friends.
old as James. I mean, James, and I'm going to be with the youth on this, but yes. Okay, go, Ella.
What Sam said, I think that spirituality is not necessarily connected with religion, but does have a lot to do with it. And I just think it means your connection with the divine, whatever that means for you, the higher power. And for us, it's, God and Christ.
That's a good way to define it. I like that.
I'm just going to cut to it, friends. Can you recover without spirituality?
So we defer to them first, and then...
Of course we're making the
and
young
then
bloods
we're
go
gonna,
first.
And then we can drop knowledge on them as needed.
I think 12 Steps would say no. I agree.
I didn't ask the
with
12
that.
steps. I asked Sam.
Okay, Sam agrees with the 12 steps, and he's going to say yes.
Meaning spirituality has to happen. for
There's
recovery
some
to happen.
connection to a power beyond yourself that has to happen. In my experience, it has been tremendously difficult to make any progress so long as I was trying to do it on my own. And even when I was connecting with other people, real people in this world, I felt like there was just something that I was missing. The biggest thing that has changed for me in my recovery has been my connection to God. And by the way, most of what's changed in my relationship with my Creator, with God, I mean, I call him Jesus Christ, and that's what feels right to me. But it has happened outside the context of church, and so you could call that spirituality. Sometimes they're one and the same, but it certainly has been one of the most important things for me.
Yeah. Ella, you were nodding your head, but it's a podcast, so you have to use words.
Yes.
Unless you're watching on YouTube. Totally look us up on YouTube and subscribe.
I agree with everything Sam said. I was just thinking that you can recover without religion. I don't think you can recover without spirituality, because again, spirituality is a connection with something beyond yourself. And I think that if you're just trying to do it by yourself, I don't think it's possible to like recover 100%, just because nobody alone does things like well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So my follow-up question to that is like, why?
Why can't you recover without?
Yes.
Yeah. Why
Like-
is spirit?
like
why is
why?
spirituality?
Well, yeah, because
Key.
you're like, I agree with the 12 steps. That's
Yep.
the sauce, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Why is
just being devil's
spirituality
advocate.
key to
Anyone who's
recovery?
listened to this podcast for 5 seconds knows that I'm where you guys
Yeah.
are. But that's why I'm saying, like, give me a what? Because if I'm someone that's like, spirituality, I don't know, or whatever, like, you both were like, absolute necessary for sure.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
don't know that I would say this is a super in-depth or deep answer. I would just say it's in the nature of healing. I don't think that we were sent to this earth to do it alone. That's pretty core to who I am, though. So I don't know what someone who's not of my belief system would say.
Okay. Well, then to expand on the why, perhaps how has it benefited you, and or when you are not in touch with your spirituality, how has it been detrimental to you?
That's what I was going to say. Just speaking from the I, again. In my experience, it is way harder to recover when I'm like, actually, I'm just going to tough it out. And actually, I can just do it by myself. And those are the times when I actually just am at the worst points in my recovery versus when I am really like turning outward and looking for community. And in those situations, recovery goes so much better. Even if I'm not necessarily acting out, wrong. Even if I am acting out, but I'm in like a community and I'm in connection with people, I feel like the recovery is going better because I'm not in a space of like, well, I'm alone. So,
Sure.
And I'm acting out and I'm alone versus I'm acting out and I have people around me who love me still.
Well, I think pointing out there's a difference between recovery and sobriety. We should do an episode on that. Wait, we did. Go back and listen to it. And so, just because I agree with you that it's not a direct correlation of when I'm being spiritual, then I'm more sober. Or we're talking about the line in the sand to recovery. So, agree 100%. Here's where I want to go with y'all people and our people too.
Yeah.
Is this definition of what's religious and what's not.
Well,
So
that's fine.
I understand that we have a definition that it is a church, which is a nonprofit organization in the United States or somewhere in the world that is Catholic or Latter-day Saint or First Baptist or Methodist or Calvary Baptist or whatever. And so people are like, well, I find spirituality not in that. But then I feel like we do all of these things that I think we would qualify as religious. So one that I participate in where is absolutely religious experience is college football. You ever been to a college football game?
That feels pretty religious to me, too.
Thank you. I'm like, no, this is a religious practice for people.
Yeah.
Like, I go to the thing, I worship, I think about it. Are you an LSU fan? Are you a Tiger only on Saturdays? Or are you a Tiger every day?
Yeah.
I mean, just like literally the words people use in church. Like there is worship that happens. Now, I'm not getting into like thumping people with the Bible, like idol worship and the 10 Commandments and sin. I get that. But what I want to say to recovery people is what's up with everyone's problem with religion. My take is community's hard. Show up in a room of 50 or 100 or 500 people and try and do unity and spirituality. Shame is going to enter the experience, and it is hard to be in community. That's my take on it. Because when we talk about spirituality, I feel like so many people fall into, Ella, what you were saying of there's this community experience that happens in spirituality. So I think one of the pitfalls I have seen in my own recovery at times and others' recovery is they say, I'm not going to participate in religion and I'm not going to participate in community, but I'm going to go be spiritual. and they either A, don't be spiritual at all and their recovery goes to garbage, or B, they go to what may not be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or the Catholic Church or First Calvary Baptist, but they do go to the hiking group, the yoga group, the whatever, which I'm like, that's a church meeting. Just heads up. Call it whatever you want. I get that you don't want to be called religion, but this is a gathering of spiritually like-minded people unifying around ideas of whatever, love, compassion, self-acceptance, in order to unify and have a spiritual experience. So do you think it is a struggle with people not wanting to do community, or do you think it's what the community's called? Because statistically, y'all's people are out on organized religion hardcore, more than any other generation. There is a plummet on the statistical map. So don't care about arguing about religion or whatever. I'm saying when it comes to recovery, spirituality.
I think for me, spirituality is so much less about perfection. And sometimes it feels like when I go into a religious space, it gets into like, did I act out last week? Because if I did, my recovery is starting over. Versus in spirituality, it's just like experiencing stuff and being able to live authentically with those experiences and not necessarily having to deal with the perfectionism of organized religion that I feel like is kind of a big problem in those communities. Versus when you take a group of people from that religion and you guys just talk about your experiences together and allow each other to like be human, which I just feel like doesn't happen a ton like in big groups of organized religion. Because
I'd argue it doesn't happen anywhere, but
yeah.
It doesn't happen anywhere. Because I know people who are super shamed in 12-step groups, which are supposed to be the group you're talking about.
Yeah.
By definition, it says your higher power is whatever you say it is. And I've talked to the people like, I went to that group and they shamed the crap out of me because I didn't check the boxes or fill
Can I be honest, though? I think that has more to do with the way that those 12-step groups are set up than... There's things that don't have to do with spirituality.
Choosing your people.
But I think that's the same thing that happens in religion.
No, yeah, for sure.
Because I've had the person sit there and they're like, my pastoral bishop or whoever church leader shamed the crap out of me. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sure they did. I think that's an accurate experience. Where I can talk to someone else that they're like, my church saved me. My church is the greatest people in the world.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so...
Well, I'm going to go back to what your point was. It's like as soon as you enter into the community, it's difficult for shame not to enter into the community. So... Ella, shame and perfectionism are parallel things. They are practically...
Perfectionism is shame.
They're one and the same. Okay. And so you can find perfectionism landing in a 12-step group, in a religion, in a wherever. So wherever you're going and perfectionism is demanded, shame has entered the community.
So to live unashamed, as we wrap up this episode, to each of us I want to ask the question... What is it that we are doing that is preventing us, where's our accountability that's preventing us from participating in our spirituality or participating in community, whether it's within the doors of an actual religion or with that group of people like you were talking about? What is it that you, I'll speak from the I as well, am wrestling with? What is that barrier that keeps you
from participating
in spiritual community, whether it's going back to church, being active in your church, or participating that way, or finding the yoga in the park group, or whatever it is you're doing? What are you personally right now? What's the barrier for you?
Yeah, so what's happening for me, and this is something I've actually thought about a lot recently, is that a lot of times when I face that type of a culture where I feel maybe a little bit unnoticed or unwanted or whatever the thing is, there's the tendency to say they are the problem. And then something really awesome happens when you start to realize, well, you know what, we are the problem. And then it shifts even more and you realize I am the problem. the way that you think about things and the way, because like.
So how are you a problem right now? How
Well,
are you getting in your own way?
you have to be careful, right? I'm saying that because it's that more helpful way to think about it. Obviously, you don't attach the shame to it, right? But if you're not interacting with the culture in a way that's improving it and making it less shameful, then I think that we all are a product of a culture. We can definitely be in a very we can stay in a space where we're victims of the way that things are, and unless someone comes around who decides to change that
100%.
culture.
I'm asking how you're doing that
How am I
right
doing
now
that?
in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Well, I mean, I'm the guy in all of my social circles that opens up about when the bros want to talk, they usually come to me because I'm the guy that opens up first. So opening up first, I think, for me is the biggest key to helping people feel more comfortable in shameful settings.
Amen. Unashamed to the max. And what part are you struggling with? I'm glad you're doing that well. High five. I'm coming back to you. James, what's the struggle right now for you?
I think the struggle that keeps me from engaging in my spiritual community, and I'll just put that in my church that I go to. The thing that keeps me from doing that is my judgment of the people in the church that are there. My judgment that I'm just going to go ahead and assume that they don't want to engage vulnerably with me. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that many of them are very rigid and are more concerned with perfection than the heart. That's when I'm getting in my way. And my current struggle or wrestle is I am leaning into vulnerability with people in my church community now. A little bit, 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time. I'm testing those waters as I challenge myself currently in my spirituality in my community. I'm not doing it well and very, but I am.
You're toddler learning to walk.
I am. I'm taking the steps in the water, and I'm working to let go of my judgment.
Yep. Ella, for you. Jaren keeps telling me we're out of time, so you got to put in a sentence or two.
I was talking. My therapist is Nate, and I love Nate.
Hi, Nate.
And you guys are
how's life? I don't know.
Lucky if you get to ever meet Nate. But I was talking to him about kind of this sort of subject, and I think what's stopping me from participating fully in my spiritual community is not a lack of clarity, but a lack of courage. That's what he said to me. I think you don't lack clarity. I think you lack courage. Because I just was like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand, why I'm feeling judgment, why I don't feel like I can open up to people about this. And he just was like, I think you're scared. So I think, yeah.
That's real. Back to you.
She's working on being unafraid.
What's the struggle right now?
Struggle for me is a feeling of. It's easy to talk to people who I don't know, but when I'm real, right? I'm actually in church settings, religious settings, spiritual settings. There's a fear that if that I'm going to be the guy that's actually real and nobody will step into it with me, and that's a lonely place to be.
Yeah, I think for me it's going through church discipline in my church and through that experience. I think I don't know how to just be present. I feel like it gets so big in therapy world or whatever. Like I'm having a hard time turning like stage me off, because the truth is stage me is not really wanted in my church currently. Which also I think is a little bit of a love note from God of like, why don't you just be a member in your church community, not a leader 24/7 and giving everyone advice? What if you actually just participated as a person? And I think I'm wrestling how to translate that. How to just be like, it's not my job to fix everyone here, name it all or whatever. I can just be. It's not an ego thing of that I'm like, I'm so much smarter than everyone, why aren't they listening to me? It's because that has not gone well for me. Just being there's been a lot of shame. And so I'm afraid to let people have power over me and influence over me, because that has not gone well for me in a church setting in particular. And so
Say it louder.
So I'm afraid to just participate. I'm like, no, I'll kind of stay over here with my therapist hat on and be smart and to protect myself.
It's hard to step out of
I'm invite all of us in that theme of courage, and everyone listening, to have courage to do something to step more into your spiritual community and to be unashamed.